Hello everybody and welcome to this week's bonus podcast. I am Michael.
I'm Gemma.
And this week we have got some listener questions for you. Well, you've got them for us and we're gonna talk about them for you. It's been a while since we've done a listener questions segment, but we are here and we've got two lovely ones to get cracking with this week. Gemma,
Good.
Do you want to read out our first one?
Kit
Yes.
has written in to say, I've been watching 2004 classic Corrie recently. I think it would have been great if Maya had actually managed to kill someone. Maybe to frame Sunita. Yeah, that is a really good idea. Are there any other female villains who didn't make the step up into actual murder who you think deserve a body count? If so, who do you think they should have killed?
A murder question for us.
I like the murder
As if
questions.
we are interested in that sort of thing on Coronation Street.
Well, obviously it's bad.
Murder is bad. No, I think I'm going off murder a little bit. I think Corrie are overdoing it somewhat with their latest female killer. I mean, Sarah Louise has managed what Maya Sharma never did. She's the ultimate female villain, isn't she?
Yeah, and do you know what it is? It's like Coronation Street serial killers or murderers always killed like through mishaps, right, and shenanigans.
Not always.
Or because the other person was a baddie.
Not all.
Well, like the big ones.
I
Uncle
think
Stephen, Pat Phelan, what's his face with a briefcase, John Stape. Those are the big ones, right? Those are the big ones.
Yeah, but like.
Yeah, they all killed.
Stephen killed
Whoops.
people. No. Like Stephen probably drowned Rufus, and you know.
Yeah, but he was a baddie.
I know he accidentally knocked Watson off the building, didn't he?
And he didn't mean it. Like, who would have known that a hole punch was so lethal?
So yeah,
I think
think
a stapler. I don't remember.
it was a hole punch. I think we're not necessarily just talking about serial killers, of course. Although Coronation Street is still missing its first female serial killer. They've had them on Hollyoaks, haven't they? They've had them on Emmerdale. We've had Mina. We've had Breeder, but nobody on Coronation Street has been a woman female.
But you didn't let me finish my
serial killer.
point.
Oh, go on.
Well, I think that the murders we've had recently aren't funny at all. What's so funny about killing Theo?
Is that your favourite kind of murder in Coronation Street? A comedic one?
I like a serial killer on Corrie or a murderer. You can look back on and go, huh.
I think
you can't do that with this Theo thing, can you? And like the blimmin', what's his face? What's it? Rachel and Lucy and
didn't even see
Richie.
That one.
I know that was not funny at all.
That was Corrie's biggest damp squib.
That was
murder.
boring. That might as well just have been a headline on the front of the Weatherfield Recorder.
I think Coronation Street, you're right, is missing somebody who's like just an out and out. Yeah, I'm a serial killer. I'm going to pick people off that I don't like, which I think some of the other soaps have had.
Now,
like, there's been people who've had an agenda, and anybody who doesn't fit into my neat little rule box of what is acceptable, I'm gonna get rid of them. And Corrie hasn't had that.
Corrie likes a sort of Shakespearean tragedy, doesn't it, where people get drawn into the ever increasing desperate lengths to cover up their crimes or eliminate people, in a kind of hapless way. Yeah. Like, then none of them are like evil geniuses, are they?
Oh, Pat Phelan was quite smart. I think he was. And look, with it...
What? I'm not allowed to talk about I think a male villain's like.
No. I just wonder why you've gone automatically to serial killing. I mean, Kit wrote in about a female murderer, and he'd be happy with one.
Yeah.
So, like, why do some of the big Corrie villains not turn into killers when they're late? I mean, it is true, actually, because if you think about a lot of the people who have killed on Coronation Street who are women, a lot of them haven't been villains, right? So we said about Sarah Louise earlier, but we also had, of course, Toya, notorious murderer.
Yeah.
Not necessarily a villain, and Corrie is doing its darndest to help us try and forget about the fact that she ever drove into a wall, allegedly on purpose, to off Imran. Tracy, murderer, villain? I don't know, she's more of a minx, isn't she?
Is this an infantilisation of women? Is this like,
I just don't think they can do it.
Don't really, I mean, in real life, obviously, either female serial killers are incredibly rare or they're just really good at not getting caught. And a lot of women will use indirect like poisoning or like not like really physical means.
Yeah.
like stabbing or shooting. Like they don't like running people over is a good one.
Yeah, and not just serial killers
Pushing
either.
people
I saw some. I've been doing a bit of
tell me.
research recently, and coming up to this episode, and apparently in the last 3 years, 93% of killers have been men, serial or otherwise. So it's very heavily weighted. Where's it from? The internet.
What, the UK?
Yeah. In the UK, 93% of killers in the last 3 years have been men. So actually, Coronation Street. Actually, if you can look at over the whole of its time as a show, there's been a greater proportion of women killers than male killers. Because if I went on the villains wiki, and I don't know if listeners you've ever seen that, but it's a really great resource for villains of all shapes and sizes across all media.
Like Cruella de Vil.
She's probably on there.
Yeah.
And it's got this Coronation Street section, right, and it lists all of the Corrie villains ever, apparently. But it is quite up to date. You know, it's even got Mal on there, it's got Jodie on there. It doesn't have Anne Malone, though, so I don't know how much we can trust it, but I kind of went with that. And if you look at all the men who were killers and all the women who were killers on there, then the 75% of the killers in Corrie's history have been male, whereas
that would be
so that's not right. 75% of the villains have been male, and 79% of the killers have been males. So actually, I mean, it's nowhere near that 93% that's real life.
So we're overrepresented women.
Yeah, in some ways maybe we are. But yeah, as I say, this
You're
villain's...
not a woman. What did you say, we?
We as Coronation Street viewers.
Oh, no, I was talking as a woman.
No. So I was kind of going down a bit of a
villain.
you I think, you know.
I think some people would say yes.
Not a killer. I don't know whether anyone can argue that quite. I was going down a proper rabbit hole in this villains wiki, and I was getting a load of interesting stats. I think they're quite interesting anyway. So it lists 131 male characters on the villain side, right? 21 of those are killers. So that's 16% of villains in Corrie that are male have bumped someone off, okay? Female villains, on the other hand, now there's only 43 listed of those, but 5 were killers, which gives you 11.6%. So it's not actually a million miles away if you're looking at what proportion of the villains of a particular gender are killers.
But,
and as I say, that doesn't include some fairly important people. So Katie Harris, right, wasn't on the list, killed her dad. Anna Windass wasn't on the list, killed Phelan, God rest his soul. Lauren Bolton wasn't on the list, killed Joel.
Yeah.
I thought, what?
You know.
I know. Yes, she did. She want Max. So Anna and Lauren both killed off big bads in Coronation Street, but they're not listed on the villains wiki as killers. And Katie. They even had the tagline, the advertising with it was Killer Katie Week, wasn't it? So if I added those to the list, then that gets a percentage of female villains that are killers to 18%. So actually, that's higher than the man. The man goes to 16%. But hey, I mean, you can twist stats to make it say whatever you want to, can't you? I mean, I might even take. Do we count Emma Watts? She was a police markswoman, right? She killed Dean Sykes in the line of duty, but as another female killer. So there's actually more female murder killers than you would possibly think. Not as many as the men, but they're not exactly far from snapping at their heels either.
How long are we going to have to wait before Lisa Connor Swain kills somebody in the line of duty?
Do you reckon?
Next year?
Would they do that?
Yeah. They've probably got a list of like outrageous plot points that they want to cover.
She was nearly responsible for her daughter being killed when she
that was just a laugh.
She shot her in the arm. But anyway, I think that the notion that females in Corrie don't kill as much as the males, I think if you kind of think about it, it's higher than you would actually think.
Okay, but can I come to that from a different perspective?
Yes.
And that I think that although the stories aren't really all that dissimilar, I think that we don't view the women as villains as much as we do the men. Like, we're socially conditioned to see malice in when a man does it versus, you know, making excuses for when a woman does it.
She's doing it for the sisters, isn't she?
Well, like, if you think of, like, Katie Harris, that really wasn't justifiable at all, was it? But a lot of people would find that quite sympathetic.
I know.
Wouldn't they?
Well, Tommy had been a horrible git to her. He'd not supported her relationship with Precious Martin. She'd gone for an abortion, having thought, because of him, that Martin had finished with her. But really, I don't think there can be any justification for her picking up that wrench and swinging it for him. It wasn't self-defence in the same way that... I mean, if you're saying that Sarah Louise was self-defence with Theo, then maybe Katie was, but no, they weren't up on a scaffolding anywhere. But
there's always, like, a reason, isn't there, for when a woman does...
Yeah.
That's not as selfish as when the man does it. And the other thing that we haven't spoken about is the victim profile.
Mm-hmm.
Because in general, although men are more likely by a considerable margin to be killers in real life, or murderers, whatever you want to call them, they're also more likely...
There is a difference, but we won't go into that.
...to be victims.
Is that right?
Yes, men are more likely to be victims of violent crime.
Oh, okay.
I believe.
Okay, I didn't know whether you were going down any kind of route, like... Did the female killers more often kill off the bad guys? Because obviously Tracy did, Sarah did, Katie did. I can't remember who else there was on the list. I mean, there's also, I think when I was thinking about it, the only female villain that I could think of who actually killed somebody. Was Anne Malone? Not Anne. Sorry, Anne Malone. Anne Foster, right?
Who what?
Who killed somebody? A female.
What are you talking about?
A female villain,
right?
Who killed somebody?
I'm
still saying there aren't very many, and if you're looking at the female killers, they weren't necessarily classical villains. But Anne Foster was a bit of a bad guy, not so much as her son Frank, but I think she's the closest that we've got to. There's been a murder, and it's a woman, and then it was Anne.
I think Tracy Barlow is a villain.
Do you?
Yeah.
Why do you?
But in the same way that maybe someone like Mike Baldwin is, but Mike Baldwin never killed anybody.
No.
I don't know. So tell me have you got anywhere a list of all the women on Corrie who have killed somebody?
No. I don't necessarily have.
But you can give me. You've got like a list.
I've got some. I've got Anne. I've got Toya. I've got Tracy. I've got Sarah. I was wondering whether you could even technically include Carla as part of this, because Kasia, who fell down the steps at the factory, Carla
covered it up. She was the one. She would have been legally responsible.
She was the one that was.
That's why she covered it up.
Yeah, she was the one that was cracking the whip and making these immigrant workers work longer than legal hours. Yeah. So one might put Carla into this as well. But yeah, they're the main. I mean, Maggie, does she count?
Yes.
Do you think?
Well, it depends on what. Yeah, I mean, she thinks she did it.
I can't remember what Maggie said the last time she spoke about it, because when we saw this on the flashback last December, we said, they were just having a tussle. We didn't see, he was kind of pushing at her. It was definitely not a case of, right, I'm going to grab you and I'm going to chuck you down the stairs behind me, was it? But they were having an argument at the top of the stairs. There was a tussle. He ended up here, and I don't know. I would even say that, Ben knows about this now, right? Doesn't he? The whole family knows what happened.
Yeah.
And none of them, although she got kicked out of the house for a little bit, out of the pub, she's living happily with them now. And I would have thought, if we were supposed to believe that Maggie should be considered a cold-blooded killer, you got to share it with the family first, and they seem to have kind of let bygones be bygones with it, right?
You can't tell her anything. Just leave it alone. You tried to say she's a murderer. She'd just get really mad at you. It's not worth it.
She seems to have even joined the list of female killers whose murdering ways are seen as a bit of a an anecdote, you know?
Yeah.
Tracy definitely
Just some
is.
antics that they got up to.
Every now and then, right, Tracy will say, oh, I killed someone, you know, or somebody will say, hey, that Tracy Barlow, you know what, she killed her husband, she killed Charlie Stubbs, or her boyfriend, sorry.
Wouldn't Ross have to disclose this working in the prison?
Yeah, probably. I don't know. And the same with Toya, right? Because that was mentioned a couple of months ago when the three sisters. What?
Didn't Abby mention it as well? And we were like, and then it didn't go anywhere.
No. That was when Leanne mentioned it. You're thinking of.
Leanne mentioned it.
You're thinking of that scene in the bistro when Leanne mentioned it and Abby reacted.
Oh, no, hang on. But didn't also Megan know?
Yeah, because the Battersby trio, the sisters, kidnapped Megan a couple of months ago, didn't they? And then Megan was like, oh, Toya, I know that you drove into a wall with Imran and that's why he's dead. So Leanne's clearly just been having a evening chat with her flatmate and just like, oh, you know, my sister, yeah, she killed her husband. What's she like, eh? So it's and Anna, she's totally got away with killing Phelan. And again, that was not self-defense, was it? He was in the. He had a gun. Yes, she may have felt threatened, but she didn't have to go in that kitchen.
She was only attacking, him because of Michelle, and nobody cares about Michelle.
I mean, you could say, you know, yeah, he was there with a gun. He could have shot her, so she got in there first. But Michelle knows what happened. She hasn't revealed to everybody, so Anna has been allowed to walk free. So yeah, female killers do generally tend to get away with it more than male killers.
Yeah, because it's this weird thing that we do in society where we blame women overly for stupid crap, but also act like they haven't got any agency in other situations. You know, there is a certain level of people making excuses or covering up, but it doesn't really benefit. I mean, how does that benefit any woman in real life? Well, I think if I could kill somebody and get away with it, that's quite handy.
Do you think that?
Not really.
I know that because obviously in real life a much higher percentage of criminals are men. So I found out that in 2023, 78% of real life actual convictions were male. Indictable offences, 87% male. So it's massively skewed towards the unfairer sex there. But I don't know whether that particularly matters in a soap. I know soaps somewhat try and reflect real life, but is that the only reason why there are so few female villains compared to male villains? Because I was looking at the other soaps as well on the wiki, and so I said 75% male villains in Coronation Street. Yeah, Emmerdale 74%. This is all just based on their the villains wiki list, so however accurate it is, I don't know. EastEnders also 75% male are the villains, and Hollyoaks 68%, so it's getting closer to a 50-50 split, but they're still all weighed really heavily in favour of males. So why do you think that is?
Well, I also think that sometimes do you remember we did that villain top trumps?
Yeah.
And this was a while ago, and I would say that the number of female, just having Toya and Maggie and Sarah as actual killers, since we've done that, changes the kind of the goalpost quite considerably, and more in favour of women being villainous.
Yeah.
But back in the day when we did that, when you were looking at all the different what did they do to deserve to be a villain? A lot of it was just oh, she's a bitch. She's a right bitch, and that's the extent of it. And the men are killing people, raping people,
beating
frauding,
people up,
drug dealing and stuff. And the women are just oh, she's such a bitch.
Yeah, or she's having an affair with somebody. I think you're right. I think if you're looking at
she's
wrongdoing for females, often that tends to be what they lean towards.
She had an affair with Kevin.
I mean, I guess yes. Natalie Horrocks was she a villain? No, not really, but she was definitely an enemy. Yeah, Molly as well. She was seen to be a bad guy in the show purely because they're kind of coming in between these happy families.
So these villains that you're talking about we don't really know how accurate. We're assuming it's equally as inaccurate for every one of these soaps, so you can kind of take them all as a yardstick.
Quite.
But we also don't really know a lot of the reasons why somebody has been called a villain.
Yeah, but I mean, none of those were. Madame Molly wasn't on the list. Natalie wasn't on the list. But also on that list, for Coronation Street, you had the likes of Steve McDonald and Ken Barlow, and they've done a few bad things. But anyway, I was thinking as well, why there are so many male villains, and I think it is partly to do with males being seen as being more physically imposing and easier to frighten. To be frightening, I mean, yeah.
I don't want to be rude, but men kind of do commit more crimes.
No, I know. That's what I said. But is there any other reason than that?
Yeah, you said men get convicted.
Convicted, all the same.
No.
In real life,
they are not. No.
Okay, go on.
Committing a crime and being convicted of a crime are two different things.
I'm just saying, in real life, yes, they are. They
right?
are.
So no, but you could say, it's more likely that women and men commit more crime. You could say men and women commit the same number of crimes, but women get away with it more often. That's not true. I'm just pointing this out.
Yeah.
So men commit more crimes and get convicted of more crimes in general, if you're talking, in a really blunt way. So it makes more sense that if you want to base your soap in reality at all, you kind of do end up with this statistic of 70-80%.
But I don't think it particularly matters. I think that if there were more female villains and there were more female killers, nobody's gonna be up there saying, this isn't true to life. Why are there so many female villains at the moment?
Okay, but you got to remember that you are supposed to be reflecting real life in soaps, and when you start going, it doesn't matter, that's when we start getting absolute nonsense.
But when you're talking about villainy, I think that's often as one of the farthest away from reality points that soaps like to stray.
Okay, but the other thing also is that we're in a world of incredible misogyny. Oh no, newsflash, different from before. It hasn't gotten any better. In many ways, it's got worse, and you don't want to feed into this kind of incel world of men who hate women by giving them crazy examples of specifically female crimes.
But I think that the audience that a soap has, I don't think that that's the same people as those that you're talking about.
Yeah, but they can still use it.
On the whole, I mean, soaps are generally targeted more towards women, aren't they? And they have always traditionally been. They were the kind of the housewives program, whether we're talking about American soaps or later on British soaps. And if you think of, I don't know what the percentages are of the the split between male and female listeners. I mean, listeners of our podcast definitely skew more female, and I'm wondering whether it's the fact that because of that, we're kind of rooting for the women more. The women have always been seen as the main characters. If you think of who the classic Corrie characters from the past, you're going to get more people who say your Hildas, your Bets, your Enas. Right. And then eventually you might get on to Len, Stan, Jack Walker, that kind of thing. So because the main characters are female, does that mean that you're more likely to see them as the goodies?
Well, that feeds into our hypothesis about women who are killers or criminals or villains on Corrie having a more sympathetic story than the men. So nobody, I mean, we were rooting for Uncle Stephen, but nobody was like, this makes total sense. He totally didn't do anything wrong. We were joking when we said that. But all of the women who do something, it's but what else could she have done?
Sometimes. I think...
Well, I mean, the best example is, again, Tracy, who just cold-bloodedly went and stitched Charlie up. And then killed him.
I can't remember at the time what the fan feedback to that was. I mean, that was pre-social media anywhere, but it was very exciting, and I think part of it, especially even in the lead up to it, when she was making out like Charlie was abusing her,
what is
I
she
remember
doing?
myself watching it going, this is exciting, what's she doing? Sneaky. And would I have felt the same way if that had been a man doing it, trying to make out that his female partner has abused him? It wouldn't feel it would feel wrong, wouldn't it?
It does annoy me when people try to flatten everything and go, you want equal rights, women want equal rights, so blah, it is completely different. Women aren't as strong It's just, sorry, I know people get offended, but we're just not as strong as men. We just aren't. And so it's easier. I think we also root for the underdog, and a lot of times the woman is the underdog just because of physicality and biology.
Yeah.
And like even social status and like economic status, we're still not equal. It's not. I know people get mad if you point it out.
Although we are in the ballpark of Kit's question, we still haven't really got close to us to saying what was he asking us, which was, looking back, could they have made any other female bad guys, villains, killers? Would we have, if starting off with Maya, right?
Would we have liked it more? See, the thing is, right, Maya feels like an unfulfilled promise, because although they kind of insinuated she died, she didn't actually die. We didn't see her die. And this is a soap, so if you don't see the body, then they're not dead.
Sometimes, even if you do.
Even then. And I know the actress doesn't seem like she wants to come back. So it feels like a real missed opportunity, because if you did bring her back, you know she'd be a killer, right?
I think you're absolutely right. I think that she would. I think that Corrie now...
Up the ante.
Yeah, Corrie now is a very different beast to even what it was... And when was it? 2003? I can't remember. When she was in the show, and even then we were in kind of the modern era of Coronation Street, so it wasn't, so people were being bumped off and there were more villains and everything. But you're right, I think if she were to come back, it'd be very tempting to turn her into a murderer. But I can't see her killing off Dev, and that would kind of be the ultimate, wouldn't it?
Devil Bernie.
Oh yeah, Bernie, she could.
I wouldn't want her to.
Or she could kill off Brody. I'd sacrifice him.
I can't. Yeah, that's the thing for Maya. I cannot see anyone exciting for her to kill. That I would sacrifice.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't be worth it to get rid of Devil or Bernie to me, because I like them both.
Yeah, and Kit suggested that back in the day, would it have been better had Maya killed someone to frame Sunita? Because that was her thing, wasn't it? Like, she was getting married to immigrants and saying, in Sunita's name to try and frame her. So
it'd be funny if she came back and she was like, Dev, your second cousin has been killed, and it was Sunita that did it. And he's like, Sunita died ages ago. No, what do you mean? Oh God! Oh,
if she'd have come back in the midst of the Sunita and Carl affair, Carl, what was his surname? I can't remember off the top of my head. One Price, was it Monroe? Could they have had her kill Carl and make out that it was Sunita? That probably would have made sense. But yeah, I do wonder. I wonder if Deb ever wonders what's Maya up to at the moment. Like, is he always watching his back?
I would as well. I mean, this is a man that supposedly still pays for Asher's nude pictures to go off the internet. You can't tell me he's not at least got a Google search set up.
Yeah. So, is there anybody else, bad girl wise, who might have improved their Corrie villain status by taking someone's life?
I wish Becky had killed somebody. Becky Swain.
Do you?
Yeah, because she was just like a rampaging little tyke, wasn't she? She just kind of...
With a balaclava.
She just kind of messed...
And a green coat.
She really just meddled with Carla and Lisa's relationship and, like, kidnapped Carla twice or just once and then moved her around.
I can't remember, but I mean, Carla definitely should have died if it was true to life, the way that she was treated and left alone in that container.
And no one seems to care about that, and she doesn't... Well, anyway, we're moving on from that. We can't keep going on about that. But I think, considering that Bostello never even appeared after the story finished, why not just kill him off? And his little boring kid?
That's true, actually.
And his boring wife.
You're right, because what did she do to him? I don't even remember.
She meddled with his retirement plan to buy a house somewhere.
No, but he was in hospital and she was going to kill him, wasn't she?
Oh yeah, she was going to kill him.
I think she did do something to him. I don't remember what, because I remember the last time we saw him, wasn't he being stretchered away somewhere and he was a bit worse for wear?
I think they should have killed him. I don't understand
him with something. But yeah, would it have made any difference if... Would it have made any difference if she'd killed him? Possibly not.
What do you mean difference?
Like to the plot, would it have made it more exciting? Would it have made her feel all the more deadly?
Yes. Would have been way more exciting and it wouldn't have impacted their plans at all. It's not like you can go, oh, I can see why they didn't kill him off, because all the great stuff that he's done since then. No.
I suppose some people would say, you know, there's too much death in Coronation Street anyway, and we don't need...
Well, then we can't do any of this.
Higher body count. But, well, I don't know. It depends whether we want to go back in time when death was not quite so, you know, 10 a penny.
Well, you don't do all of this, do you? This is just suggestions of various things. Yeah. And this year, you've had loads of people die, and a lot of it was boring. So... do our exciting ones, please.
Do you think that the Kirsty story could have had her... like, I don't know who she could have killed. Tyrone, Fizz, or somebody else who was involved and maybe meddling with it. I can't remember who was there now, but...
I think the same is true of this story as is of the Todd and Theo story, in that you murder somebody in it and you kind of turn the story from a realistic ground... you know,
yeah, that's a good point.
What's it, grounded, as far as the soap can. Issues-based story about domestic violence, and you turn it into what has happened to Theo and Todd's story, which is where Todd's like, I'm going to be an asshole now, and Sarah's like, oh, I didn't mean to kill him, but I did, I guess. Like, what? Okay, it's better to leave it as it was.
The story, the performance, everything involved was powerful enough without her actually killing someone.
Because the point of like domestic violence stories is not that the perpetrator gets murdered or that anybody, you know, and sadly, it's more likely that the victim of the violence is the one that dies.
Yeah.
Right? So you would be talking about Kirsty killing Tyrone, which would have been a massive mistake. And now we've got this Richie and Rachel story where he supposedly killed her because she was abusing him. It's one of those things that it doesn't really ring true to like how things happen.
It's hard to say, yes, I would sanction any of these female villains to have killed a main character, because the vast majority of the main characters who they would have killed, like, you know, Tyrone or Fizz or whatever in this case, went on to do some amazing stuff that we never would have got had they been killed off. But then equally, people are leaving Corrie all the time or dropping dead, and there's probably in parallel universes, a whole number of stories that we never would have gotten. You know, maybe we would have got something even better from Tyrone had Fizz been bumped off. I don't really know. I was thinking, do you remember Kaz Hammond, who was going out with Kate when she first came into it? Because she turned into a bit of a nutcase, soldier, doesn't she? She pretended.
Did she have PTSD?
I don't.
Or did she pretend?
No, she pretended that she had a bad leg, and to try and get a bit of sympathy. But her story kind of ended where she pretended to have been killed, didn't she? Because she was very...
she fancied Maria.
She fancied Maria. Maria wasn't interested. She knew that Marcus Dent was the man for her around this time. I think it was Marcus. Maybe it was not. I don't remember. Could Kaz have bumped off Marcus? I think he could have been a bit of a sacrifice, to be honest, if he'd been around.
Yeah, it's really tempting, though, to go back and rewrite... well, you know, to go back and preserve what actually happened and say something like, oh, she could have killed Kate. She could have killed Marcus, because they aren't in the show anymore, so you don't really care. Like, she probably would have killed Maria.
Yeah. She could have killed Aidan because he was involved with all of this, but then you think, well, then we wouldn't have got what we got with him at the end.
Or
I mean, I might have
killed Kirk.
Yeah, I mean, I'd sacrifice Kirk.
That's not funny though, is it? And Kirk's a comic character. Would you really want to kill Kirk?
I don't know.
Like, after everything.
I can't say that in the last however many years it's been since this story has been on that Kirk has given us that many memorable scenes, to be honest.
He's not funny anymore, but he's not like so unfunny that he's stabbable.
No, I guess not. But I think if anybody, Kaz was kind of unhinged enough that she could have potentially... because the thing is, she's not in any way a memorable Corrie villainess now, is she?
Nobody knows.
Nobody remembers who Kaz is. If you're going to say, name me some classic Corrie villains, nobody's going to say Kaz. But if she kills somebody, that would have got her into the history books a little bit more. Same way.
No, right, so sorry to interrupt you. We have had female villains that have killed people, but we've never had a multiple murderer.
Do you mean a
Is
serial
that correct?
killer?
Well, no, because you need to kill 3 people.
Oh, well, yes. No.
You
No.
know, so a
That is
mass murderer or a spree killer is somebody that kills a load of people at once.
Right.
And a serial killer is somebody that kills 3 or more people with a period of cooling off in between.
Okay.
But we've had neither of those.
No.
Okay, sorry.
No. Why?
Well, I think if you're going to try to, I think the kind of the heart of Kit's question, I don't think he maybe said it, is more to do with like, is there a villain? Yeah, like a body count. Like, is there anyone, or could there be anyone, or should there have been anyone, who's a woman who could have been gone toe to toe with the rest of the killers who were men, like serial killers or.
I think the only person who really could have been up there with that is, well, possibly Tracy, but I'm glad they didn't, because I'd much rather have Tracy the way we have her now than, you know, if she'd have turned into a serial killer, no way would we have her in the programme anymore. But I think that Maya is probably the only one who was crazy enough to have had that psychopathic, sociopathic, serial killy bent to her.
But I would give an honourable mention to Sharon Bentley.
Oh.
Because I think...
Bang, bang, have it.
Yeah, now she's involved in crime and drugs, which are always the most boring motive for murder. So just take note, anyone listening. It's just boring and uninspired to kill people over drugs and money. She that would be what she would do. She could definitely come back as a... You know, and there's so many peripheral characters who are involved in that now that you could kill off quite a few of them. Like Fiona.
Which Fiona? Current Fiona, not Fiona.
MOT Fiona. She could get killed.
Yeah.
You could kill Carl. I'm sorry, but you could.
Oh, for sure.
Jodie could get involved in this because she just won't.
Well,
help
Jodie's
herself.
got her gun, hasn't she? Is Jodie going to become the next female villain who is also a killer? Because, you know, I don't know I don't think she's got a particular reason to kill anyone at the moment, apart from David or Shona. Because does she still fancy David? Does she still think she's in with a chance there? I don't know. But the fact that she's got that gun means it's going to at least go off at some point before the story. Whether someone's on the receiving end of that bullet and that's the end of Jodie remains to be seen.
What's the name of that? The girlfriend of the Joker.
Harley Quinn.
She's got Harley Quinn chaos energy if Harley Quinn had no real energy or charisma. Because Jodie, at the moment, I really was trying to be on board with her and I was definitely, you know, doing my best, but at the moment, she is just that, isn't she? She just causes chaos, but nobody really notices a lot of the chaos. Like, oh, my book's gone missing.
Yeah.
Like,
how
oh gosh,
inconvenient that is.
The library's going to be cross with me. You know, what are we doing?
Yeah, like, Brian's probably really racking up that late return fee now because of Jodie.
It was, anyway. The guns caused a problem, but not an interesting problem.
No.
Just like oh god, kind of a problem.
Do you think that, like, could Megan have been a killer, or was there no need? I mean, she did have Maggie dangling at the top of those stairs at some point, didn't she?
See, again,
the other way around.
Again, the thing about Megan is that she had this. She was intersected between 2 issue storylines that really did not need that kind of level of sensationalism, with a grooming story on one hand and a story about schizophrenia on the other hand.
Yeah.
Right. You could have. It would have been. It would have been a bit more interesting if she had killed some people, but it just wouldn't have gone with the.
It would have muddied it a little bit more.
It would have been too dramatic, really. Yeah. Some of it for what the issues, the seriousness of the issue.
Yeah, I don't think she needed to be a murderer, and so often they kill off their murderers. She needed to be arrested and sent down because of what she did to Will, not because she did that and then suddenly that doesn't really matter anymore because she actually killed somebody then. That kind of minimises what she did to him, doesn't it?
You have to, like, what's the word? You have to resist the temptation sometimes to put it to 11.
I think that they definitely could have gone down the route with Sharon, like you said. I'm glad that they didn't, because it's just peculiar what they did, getting her involved in gang culture towards the end of it. And you know, she was looking, that was when Nick and Leanne were on the run. Do you remember? They were hiding out somewhere, and then she used Artie's Xbox to try and spy on whoever it was, to try and find out where. That was peculiar. But I at the end of the day, she is on the whole a good character. I think that's had a bit of a bum deal dealt to her when she was brought back this last time, so I'm glad that wasn't sullied with a murder.
I think that Jade...
Jade. Remember Jade?
This John Stapes kid who was hated Fizz.
She had a bit of... She fizzled out at the end, didn't she?
Yeah, she was supposed to escape to France. And
she ended up just leaving with her tail between her legs, didn't she?
See, but there was that. What happened with Fizz? Hit her with a great big chopping board.
Yeah.
Now imagine if she'd killed her by accident.
Well, that would be very on brand for Corrie, considering all the other accidental female murders.
Okay, you're going through all this list and you're saying, you know, oh, here's a villain. You know, here's a woman who's done this. Here's a woman that's done that. What about doing kind of what they did with John Stape and just taking some guy or some girl, some random girl who you'd never think and really doesn't have it in him, and just turn him into a murderer? Like, could Fizz have been a multiple murderer?
No.
Why not?
Because
John Stape, I'm trying to remember, like, how long was it? He wasn't in the show that long before he started getting up to no good.
He had times on and off the show. He was in it a few years, but not continually. I don't like that.
Okay, so if not Fizz, then I mean Toya's right there. Toya's already killed one.
Have they ruined the character enough? Have they kind of blackened her soul enough that there's no coming back from that?
Who would she kill? Could she kill Idris?
Oh yeah. No, Toya's not going to kill anybody. It was just stupid.
It was just one of those, you know, PMS days.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I shouldn't say that.
I wonder whether, like, Charlotte Hoyle didn't kill anybody, but she
had crazy eyes. She could have killed somebody.
They could, because she was like one of the ultimate Corrie bunny boilers, couldn't they? So she could have gone after Fizz. There's been a few crazy women who've...
Fizz attracts her, doesn't she?
Yeah, who could have bumped them off.
What about Mary? Now, Mary's had it in her the whole time, hasn't she?
Yeah.
Or, you know, Amy.
I think that if there's anybody who's on the younger side that's just not quite grown up into full-grown murderer yet, it's Hope. And I mean,
really...
I hope that they
pinning all
don't.
our hopes on her, aren't we? No, I would love her to be a murderer.
Would you? No.
Yes, I would. I think she's, you know, she's in murder school, isn't she?
Well, and then leave the programme afterwards.
That's exclusive. That's the new American Horror Story season 14. Murder school.
There's only going to be 3 or 4 years until Hope is old enough to have the sort of stories where... Because they still haven't decided yet, have they? Is she reformed? Is she, she was sympathetic to Daniel when he was having his panic attack in the school corridor earlier this year, but equally she is still a massive cow, but she can still get away with it at her age, can't she? There's going to be talks, if there haven't been already, in the Corrie writers' room to say, well, when she's 18 or when she's in her early 20s, are we going to turn her into... Yeah, into a killer.
Here's another question. Would you like Corrie's first female serial killer or, multiple murderer to be an existing character or a new person who's brought in specifically for that storyline? And is that person already on the show, aka Jodie?
Most of the serial killers... Or
Lucy.
Most of
we
the
haven't
serial
even mentioned
killers,
her.
No, exactly. Yeah, she very likely killed her mum, we reckon. The serial killers in Coronation Street have tended to be characters who came in for the storyline of, I'm going to be a serial killer. Stephen Reed arguably had been on a few stints on the show before, but when he came in the last time, it was to make him a serial killer. Yeah. Richard Hillman was going to be a serial killer. Pat Phelan, I don't think he was, because he had his first stint where he was just being a bit of a mischief to the Armstrongs, and then he went off for a little bit, and then he came back to be a serial killer. So I don't know. I think it would be hard for any kind of long-term existing character. It'd buck the trend a little bit to say they're a serial killer now, and it would also stretch credulity just a little bit, don't you think?
What?
Although I suppose everyone's got to start somewhere.
Stretch credulity
to say, well, this person that we've known for the last 20 years.
No, but that's how they do it.
But they don't do it, that's the point.
Yeah, they do. You just mentioned Uncle Stephen.
Yeah, but he'd been off screen.
Yeah, so what? What about Dee Dee?
What about her?
Well, she's been off screen. She can come back and kill people. What about Michael Bailey? Get away with it.
He's not a lady.
What about Aggie? Oh yeah, Aggie.
Aggie's
not here because she's been killing people in the Midlands.
Okay. Is she going to come back recast as with a different actress, and it's going to turn? What have you been up to, Mum? What have you been doing?
Murder.
Let me tell you. So I think we kind of need to round up this question because it's been a long discussion already, and we have got the next one to consider.
I love this.
I know this is right up your street, but I think the answer to Kit's question is I don't think there's any really obvious standouts.
Except for Maya.
Maya is the main one, and I think that a lot of the other characters that could have gone down that darker route, it would have made changes to the show that we wouldn't have liked to seen unless they bumped off somebody inconsequential. Like, I wouldn't want Kirsty to have killed Fizz or Tyrone, and like you said, it would have diluted the whole domestic abuse. But if they were to have them kill off somebody, I wouldn't have wanted it to be them. So
I'm fully on board with a killer. I
must admit that when I was hearing about what old Mina was getting up to in Emmerdale,
jealous.
what Breeder McQueen was getting up to in Hollyoaks, I was like, oh, I wish we had that on our show. Because even though the statistics, the percentages of male to female ratio killers are largely the same between the soaps, it does feel like Corrie is missing that kind of character. So is EastEnders, I believe. I think so. Most of the big bads, most of the big killers in EastEnders, if not all of them, have been men as well. So
I also think that men. This is why I say that having a category for just both genders is crap in soap awards, because you don't get the same roles, because you don't play the same role in society if you're a man and a woman. Why are we pretending that men and women have the same role in a soap? They don't.
Yeah, they don't.
They don't.
But, I think, if we've got the next Corrie producer waiting in the wings, because Kate Brooks has been doing the job for a couple of years now, and traditionally a couple of years is as long as you got. Ian McLeod was a bit of an outlier, so were she to be replaced and somebody to come in and say, I know what I'll do, I'm going to have a female serial killer, in some way I'm saying, yeah, great, sounds good, but equally I'd be quite like, oh, do we really need more death and drama and murder at the moment? Because it feels like we've had quite a patch of it.
It would do. It would consolidate it, wouldn't it? Instead of having murders left, right and centre, all these random people just dying or falling over or, off screen even.
Yeah.
The absolute liberty of dying off screen on a soap.
Tell you what.
You'd have it all consolidated within one character.
Cassie can come back, and with her and Evelyn, they can work together to bump off Ross.
I'd love that.
Right, you heard it here first.
There's quite a few people that really need to die on Coronation Street. It's just a question of who should kill them.
Right, let's move on to our next question. Thank you very much, Kit, for asking that one. I hope that we
never really answer them, do we?
Well, we still have a nice waffly chat. It's fine. I haven't got a definite answer, Kit, unfortunately, apart from no, not really.
What about Lisa Connor Swain, secret police avenger?
Nah. Right, Martin has written into us and said, should the producers recast a character when the actor leaves the show rather than completely lose that character? I'm thinking Rosie and Sophie. It works fine in plays.
This ain't a play, Martin.
This isn't a play.
Good question. You know what? This is a question that comes up a lot, and it normally comes up from people who watch from overseas.
We see that on our Facebook group, don't we?
Yeah.
People saying, oh, couldn't they have just recast? Because in some places it is so just perfectly normal to keep the character and lose the actor that they say, well, why wouldn't we? But
you've done some really good research on this.
Obviously, traditionally, that's just not been the done thing in British soaps, apart from, really, Kids. There seems to be a bit of an age cut-off point when you can get away with actor wants to leave, or given a bit of a gentle push, and then let's recast them.
Wouldn't you prefer to do something else?
Yeah. Don't you want to concentrate on your school studies?
Wouldn't you like to get a degree?
Yes.
So that you can not have a job for that reason?
I mean, most recently, we've had Ruby recast, haven't we? And there was not really much of a gap between when we saw old Ruby into new Ruby.
Yeah.
Lily, Harry, Bertie, and this is just, in the course of the last 2-3 years. And you can go back and back and back, and that's just something that as soap fans we're used to. So why is it that we're used to that and very accepting of that with children, but it feels like such a big no-no for adults? I think probably the oldest actor to have ever chosen to leave Coronation Street and then get replaced immediately by somebody else was when Zenon Ditchit left, who used to play Ardy, and then Adam Hussein came in, and it might have been 6 months or so afterwards. We just didn't see much of them. But I mean, Adam Hussein at the time was 17, 18-year-old, so he was definitely an older child / young adult, and so it was particularly noticeable.
Yeah, you could.
But generally, the switch tends to happen early teens or 10, 11, 12, sort of. I mean, if you look back to, say, Sarah Louise, they replaced the actress who played her with Tina O'Brien around 1999, 2000, because they knew they had the pregnancy story coming along. I think David was then recast as Jack P. Shepherd not too long after that. And it's just very much a case of, okay, and what they'll generally tend to do in the dialogue is have one of the other characters mention them by name in their first scene. Like I think Jack P. Shepherd's first scene, wasn't that in the cafe or in the shop or something? And Martin's like, David, just so the audience knows, oh, okay, that's David then. But they couldn't do that with adults, could they? Can you imagine, right? Them just somebody walking into the pub, and let's say Gemma's been recast, and Ben's just like, "Oh, Gemma, well, you go down and fix the bottles of whatever from the cellar," and then we go, "Oh, that's Gemma, is it?" It'd blow our mind. We'd revolt.
Right. I think without wishing to sort of point at anyone in particular, I think sometimes it's quite clear that the child actor is not interested in acting and doesn't really necessarily have, the skills to continue to act in the kind of storylines that there would be required of them as an older character. So,
right.
So they're kind of anonymous and you don't really notice them anyway, so they get recast and you might not even notice.
I think that's an important point, the fact that they're so anonymous, and often the characters, like David, going back to them again, but there were countless others, David, Sarah Louise, they didn't have big stories before. They had some stories, definitely, Sarah Louise during the Greg Kelly story, for example. But generally it was like, okay.
Point, there's like a variety of small brown-haired boys who could be this, could be a Platt, could be a Barlow, I don't know who they are, whatever. If they got recast, I wouldn't notice because I don't pay attention to children.
The old Ruby certainly was noticeable, wasn't she? She was very sassy.
Well, I also think that there are, I don't think it's unfair to say that children's enthusiasm will wane at times, and you can tell if a child is like, I don't want to do this.
The majority of them, of course, didn't choose to join Corrie, did they?
Necessarily.
A lot of them, their parents were like,
they might say, I like acting, but they don't know what that means for their lives, do they? And as they get older, they might realise it's not for them.
Yeah, and Coronation Street doesn't hold the same weight as it does for an adult who's auditioning to take on a new role. It's just like, well, this is what I do, and my mum takes me to this place, and there's
a small pool of actors who are children whose parents are willing or are able to live in that area and bring them along. It's not the same as the adult, because anyone in the UK could play that part if they're willing to go and live in Manchester or commute, right?
Yeah.
Children are very different. It's a much smaller pool of people who can even do it or be considered.
I think the other thing... Oh, go on, carry on.
Go on.
I was going to say, the other thing with the children is, and this is the same with other kind of recasts, I suppose, a lot of the time when they do recast them, they're very, very good with their recasts, and they put somebody in who will immediately you think, ooh, they're great.
Yeah, but
that's what we got with Tina. That's what we got with Tina O'Brien. That's what we got with Jack P. Shepherd.
That's sometimes a double-edged sword, though, because they might come in and be like, hey, pal, here I am. I'm making my mark. But then they haven't got anything to give him. Like, I think that's kind of happened with Lily. And I can't remember, a few others have been recast recently. And you go, oh, like Ruby. Oh, they must have recast them because they're coming up to a story. And no, we haven't.
They've done a little bit more with Lily. Lily's an interesting case because she's one who I would say wasn't just a random anonymous child. Old Lily had a... No, she wasn't in it loads, but she had a presence.
Yeah, she did.
And a personality, and new Lily is completely different. And that, to me, is why it hasn't worked quite as well, as smoothly as some of the others that I would like.
She's doing
a good job, but she's not the same as she was before.
And I think probably... I was going to say, who's a good example of... Like Todd. I think you can compare the difference in the character to Todd, because new Todd is not old Todd. They didn't even try. And the same thing happened with Ryan. They went, look, it's not the same character. We don't care.
No, but Ryan was different for Todd because Todd was a very beloved character, and generally it was agreed that Bruno Langley was a talented actor and he brought a lot to that role, and it was a very memorable, iconic role. But I don't think anyone was saying that about Ryan. In fact, quite the opposite. I think Sol Harras, who played Ryan before Ryan Prescott took on, wasn't particularly thought very highly of. And so I think, when Ryan Prescott came in and he was great, it was like, oh, not only do we get a new Ryan, but we also get somebody who we can actually, we can actually go for now. It's similar with when Adam Hussein took on the role of Ardy, Zenon... I know, they just didn't give him anything to do, did they? But it was night and day giving Adam the role. It's like, oh, this is brilliant.
See, this is why...
I don't mind that they've recast him. I don't mind that we only just saw him with a different head 6 months ago. I'm all in on this new one.
This is why it can be a bit of an unfair comparison. And I don't want anyone to draw any conclusions about our opinions about the child actors who've been replaced, because they work really hard, right? But sometimes... they replace somebody because they've got a reason, and so you think, oh god, look, the new X character is much better than old X character, but it's not old X character's fault. It's that they've got a storyline to give them that they never had before.
Yeah, exactly.
And also that sometimes it's that old X character was a 13-year-old and new X character might be an 18-year-old pretending to be a 14-year-old. And so you can give them a completely different set of stories and working conditions. That's another thing we haven't mentioned. The working conditions and legal requirements for people of different ages vary wildly. And so, I don't know, maybe sometimes it's a cost-cutting measure to get somebody in who's 18 instead of 16 instead of 14 or whatever, because you don't have to have,
all the tuition.
What's it called?
Upper working hours? Or
working hours, a tutor, a whatever.
I don't know.
Somebody who goes around with you. What's it called?
Chaperone.
Chaperone, that's the word.
Something that you brought up there, which is interesting, because when we think of immediate recasts and commonplace recasts, really what we're thinking of is American soaps, where it is done all the time. But you just talked about bringing in actors who are older than the actor that they were replacing, which is done especially it seems to be with the children. You're right, they'll bring in someone who's that much older than the other one because they want to give them a more challenging story.
Summer was a really good example.
Yeah, exactly.
Because also, I mean, we've got Harriet Bibby, who is 20 in her mid-20s, but the original actress who was cast as Summer, there was a massive scandal because she was revealed on her social media to be a lot older than she said she was.
No, that was Bethany, wasn't it? That was who Bethany? They were going to give the role of Bethany to.
Yeah, that was a big... that was a bit of a scandal because she was on her Instagram blowing out candles on a cake that literally said her age, which was very different to the age that I think she told Corrie that she was.
So this thing
good for her, I say.
This thing I was saying about getting in actors to play older than they actually are in American soaps. It seems like they are much more willing to do is just to age up the character. Right?
Oh.
And so if they have a child character who's this old and they say, oh, we want to recast them, let's bring in someone 5 years older and we'll just make the character 5 years older now. And there's this thing called soap opera rapid aging syndrome. And yeah, that seems to happen quite a lot. Like I was reading one example of this character in As the World Turns called Tom Hughes, who was seen to be born on screen in 1961, but by 1970 he'd fought in the Vietnamese War.
The Vietnam War.
Yes, the war in Vietnam. Yes. But then he was kept in his 30s for 20 years. And
I've done that. And what's wrong with that?
It's just like, yeah, that happens. There was this other character called Tom Horton in Days of Our Lives, who, because of this rapid aging, was at one point working in the hospital with his great-great-grandson at the same time, which it doesn't make any sense. But yeah, American soaps are very happy to do that, yet the only times really that's happened in Coronation Street, the most obvious one to me is Asher and Ardy, and they were aged up 1 year, I think it was. So
yes,
we saw them be born.
It.
Yeah, we saw. I no, that's the thing. I don't think everyone did hate it. I think like the hardcore, actually people like us hated it, but most people either didn't notice or didn't care.
What
and there's a difference between aging someone up there's a difference between aging someone up 1 year and aging them up 5 years.
Yeah.
And you know they had that with those two, but it was done before with Mark Redman, who was Mike's son, and they aged him up a year, 2 years maybe, so that he could be in school with Nick Tilsley, because the character hadn't been on screen, but then they brought him into the show because he was born on screen, went away, came back, and he was in the same class as Nick. And I think some people at the time probably went, oh, hang on a minute, that doesn't make sense. But largely people go, oh, I don't even notice. But I don't think it's something that British soap viewers would want Corrie or any soaps to be going down that rabbit hole very often, right? Because at the end of the day, British soaps, more so than American soaps, are somewhat rooted in reality. And I think that from what I know about American soaps, there's an understanding between the audience and the producers of the program that, oh, this isn't real what we're watching. This is just a story about some people who live here. These are just some characters and the extravagant lives that they have. But with British soaps, we're like, I know they're real people, and I know we don't think that really. But do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
there's more of an understanding.
I mean,
it's got to bear some resemblance to reality, even though they do stretch credulity a little bit more nowadays.
I think you can say that more broadly about British television and American television as a whole, though.
Mm.
I think when we go fantastical, we go full in, like Doctor Who. You know, no one's pretending Doctor Who is like a documentary,
right?
Whereas in America, I think sometimes, there's like, Touched by an Angel. Like you can put that on English television, British television. We'd be like, what is this?
Well, they've got soap operas in America where they have like supernatural bits, don't they?
And anyone who's listening to this who lives in the States, or I assume Canada gets them as well, we're gonna sound like we don't know what we're talking about here. So just bear with us.
Like somebody who was possessed by the devil in one of the programs.
I've seen that clip.
And yeah, exactly. And they'll like have amnesia and people forgetting things and evil twins and even more secret familial relation surprises than we've been having in Coronation Street in the last few years. It's just accepted a little bit more there. Because they're not trying to do the same thing as a British soap is. No. Or an Australian. I think there's like a family of like Australian soaps and British soaps are in the same family of like storytelling, aren't they? Yeah, I mean, I don't know too much about Australian soaps, and I would probably imagine that they're kind of straddle. I don't know whether they're closer to British soaps or American soaps in the what should we accept before we think, oh, this isn't real. I mean, like, as I say, in America they just go, well, it's not real, it's fine, I'm enjoying the program, is what is my understanding. Okay, is there not like also a bit of a link between like telenovelas and Spanish? Yes. So like I think that those two
look, you tell us if we're wrong. If you know more about it, I'd love to know what you think. But does it feel like American soaps and Spanish soaps inhabit this world of like anything goes, and like Australian soaps and British
acceptable
soaps are
fantasy.
like, could this happen in real life? Well, it has to, really.
And then anyone can argue about a British soap, well, that wouldn't happen in real life. But I think we must understand that they're much more grounded in reality.
Well, you wouldn't have someone being possessed by the devil.
No.
Yet.
It does make you wonder, though. Like,
where's the limit?
Some of what we've been seeing in Coronation Street over the past few years, like, you know, Becky Swain coming back from the dead, for example, and then there's been other coming back from the dead stories, you know, in other soaps, like didn't Cindy Beale are coming back from the dead,
right.
Graham in Emmerdale, and I'm thinking, are they testing the waters here?
But can I look, without really knowing a lot about it, I'm going to hazard a guess that in an American soap they would literally come back from the dead, like they literally would be a resurrected corpse, and everyone would be like, okay. You know, whereas in the British soap, you'd be like, how did this happen? And they say, oh, here's an elaborate load of crap that doesn't really make sense.
But I don't think that American soaps are completely against that. Like, going back to what we were originally talking about, the purpose of this question was about recasting, not about fantastical elements or rapid aging or anything. But it is so common, and sometimes it goes remarked upon in America, but then I was reading examples of characters who would be just have a new head, and they'd literally say, "Oh, I've had plastic surgery, and that's why I don't look the same." There was one character, I can't remember, I can't find my notes for him now, but he was in a car crash. This was Adam Newman in The Young and the Restless, right? So he'd been played by many actors over the years. But when Mark Grossman took over the role in 2014, it was explained that he had plastic surgery after a car crash, which is nuts. It's like, but I think a lot of the time in American soaps, it's just like, well, that's just who it is now. I think I'm right in saying that occasionally they will have a little caption on the screen saying, the part of blah 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 is now being played by la-di-do, and it's literally like in a play.
That's what Martin was saying.
Yeah.
In his question, he said, like in a play, it doesn't matter.
Well, like, it's like when we went to the Steps musical earlier this year, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then they had this meltdown in the interval where one of them went off sick, and then they had to do a swap around. And then as the second half started, they said, the part of so-and-so is now being played by this person.
And
here.
we were so far back, we were like...
we could barely see. We
couldn't tell one of them, but the other one was definitely a completely different person.
Yeah. But other times... they just get on with it. Like, I was reading about this character called Ashley Abbott in The Young and the Restless, right? And so she was played by somebody called Eileen Davidson at first, who left the show in 1988, and Brenda Epperson took over. And then in 1996, an actress called Sharice Shattuck took over. And then after that, it went back to Eileen again, the original actress, from 1999, and she is still the part now. So she played her right at the beginning, and now she's been playing her for the past 27 years. And we have had that once in Corrie, haven't we? When Wendy Jane Walker played Susan Barlow during the 80s.
Right.
Or 70s, and then somebody else played her, and then in the 80s it was played by her again. But then when she was brought back so that Billy could kill her off in a car accident, she was somebody else. But I thought that was quite an interesting case. But the other crazy thing that I found about American soaps, and again, I mean, it's crazy to me from a British perspective, but from any American listeners who are listening to this, they might go, what? Well, that's normal. Is that if, for whatever reason, an actor just can't come to work, like they're on maternity leave, or if there's like a short illness.
Didn't think they had that in America.
Or well, no, that's very true. Or what have you.
They'll
just say, oh, we'll get somebody else in. So
there's quite a few people in Corrie that are probably quite like that.
There are some characters some actors who've played a character in American soaps for like a couple of episodes.
That's
just
weird.
To fill in, and it is like in a British soap, if an actress is having a baby, that forces storytelling into.
Well, hang on.
They have to leave.
Yeah, I mean they do physically. But the issue is in this country that, you know, we have maternity leave as a protected right. Okay, if you are an employee of a firm, you have a protected right to take off a certain amount of time. But if you work as an actor, you're very often self-employed, and so you don't actually get covered.
Right.
So I think a lot of people think that, you know, the situation at Coronation Street is different from what it actually is, because my understanding is that it kind of costs you money.
I think
it wouldn't do if you were anyone, you know, working for another company.
I think you're right, but in any case,
but actors, that's an actor's life.
Yeah, if an actor in a British soap has to take time off, the programme is forced to change its creative vision.
Yeah.
To accommodate that.
Yeah, I mean that's
whereas
the same
in America, what?
That's the same for a male actor has an illness.
Yeah, well, anybody, exactly. I'm not just
No, we're just using that as an easy example.
Yeah, but in America, from what I understand, they just say, well, we'll have somebody else play them for the time being, which is why.
Wouldn't that scare you?
Maybe it's like, what if they're really good?
Off? Yeah.
Trying to discourage you? Do I definitely get my job back when I come back?
Yeah, because that's the other thing. You know, like I said, actors are kind of freelancers, but in this country, your job is protected when you leave. It's supposed to be legally speaking. You should still be able to go back to that role.
Yeah.
Once you come back from maternity leave.
Yeah.
If you know.
But I just. I can't imagine a world where that would fly with British viewers because, like I said, we like to hold on to some semblance of realism in British soaps, and I think that child actors is something that we've got used to. But I mean, the question is, could we get used to it in British soaps if one of them's decided, screw this, I want to have this be the story and this character needs to be there, we're going to recast you, and then they started carrying on doing it? Would we get to a stage where we get more accepting of it, and is that really a bad thing?
How similar do these actors in America look? Because the pool of American actors is going to be bigger than the pool of British actors. There's like 70 million people live here, 365 million or whatever live in America. You could probably here's a brown-eyed, brown-haired, handsome white guy.
I think they would try and make them look similar, but I'm sure there are examples where they do look similar and when they don't. I was telling you about another one that I read about in America, who was an actress who was half American. She was a Chinese. No, it was East Asian American biracial character, and then she was replaced by somebody that was 100% white. And I think that might have caused a bit of controversy at the time.
That wouldn't go down well.
But so.
Can you imagine if they just replaced Alia with just a white girl?
The thing is, I've kind of taken the stance over the last 10 years or so that it doesn't necessarily matter if they don't look the same. I don't mind that Ryan Prescott looks nothing really like Sol Harris.
I mean, the best example is Nick.
Yeah, Nick. He like in all of his incarnations, he's looked very, very different. There was more similarity between Warren Jackson's Nick and Adam Rickett's Nick, but there is nothing in common between Adam Rickett and Ben Price.
They're not the same height. They're not the same build. They don't have the same colour hair.
No, yeah,
there's nothing.
I don't know about Ben Price and his six pack, but I don't think it probably holds a candle to what Adam Rickett was.
Adam Rickett was this kind of like slight, kind of quite on the short side of average height, like blonde-haired pretty boy, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And Nick is like a bit more of a built, kind of like masculine, chiseled features, stubbly hair, beard,
So there was about
guy.
I can't remember how long there was in the break between the last time we saw Adam Rickett's Nick and when we saw Ben Price's Nick.
Price Nick ate Adam Rickett Nick, and that's why he's bigger.
But how long a gap is it until it's acceptable? Because we were asked in this question, why doesn't somebody just replace him instantly? And we say instantly, that's ridiculous. Of course that wouldn't work. But is a year okay? Is 5 years okay? I mean, when we had the original actor who played Ryan was called Ben Thompson. and there was only a year and 9 months between him leaving and Sol Harras taking over, and that was a bit of a child
to man.
Child to man. He was 18, so maybe it was a bit closer to the child recasting. So, and I think I don't think there was a huge amount of time between Ian de Kerstacker leaving and Sam Robinson taking over as Adam. It was only a couple of years. So does that? But then there have been some examples with minor characters where there's been even less time. So Liam Connor's mum, Helen, there was a 6-month gap between appearances that she made in mid-2000s, and she was recast in that time. I wonder at the time how many people noticed, because 6 months doesn't feel like long, but is it long enough for people to not notice? In 2004, there were 2 actors who played Dev's dad, and one was in February, I think, and then the next one was in November. How many people... October. Gemma knows. How many people noticed that, I wonder? How many people noticed that when Catherine Kelly was hired to play Becky MacDonald, 5 months previously, she'd been played by a different actress in one scene where she was huddled up as a homeless girl against a police station? Probably not many, but...
A lot of people wouldn't even really register.
All of these are kind of
appearance.
were minor characters who hadn't had loads to do. They might have only had 5 episodes with the old actor before being moved on to the new one.
Well, there are also loads and loads of people who appear as social worker 3 and then come back as police officer 2.
Well, yeah, exactly. You're absolutely right. So you see stories all the time pop up and say, oh, so and so, what was
makes a triumphant return 22 years after their first Corrie appearance.
Yeah, like this last year, we've had the last week. Sorry, we had Fraser, Celeste's neighbour, was playing somebody else in 2009 Coronation Street.
Well, even Idris.
Yeah.
He's just appeared on Classic.
He just appeared
Corrie.
on Classic as somebody else.
Yeah.
But then you also got the likes of,
Lisa
George, who was... I was thinking of Lisa George.
I was thinking of Vicky Myers.
You were thinking of Vicky Myers, both of which played paramedics or medical professionals back in the day. So there is a certain amount of suspension of disbelief, but forgetting definitely helps. Nobody's going to remember.
No, most people really do not register what you look like.
No. Tim, Joe Datine, I don't think it was too long in between him being a detective and then coming on as Tim. The guy who plays Eddie Windass, Steve Eason, there was probably a couple of years in between his 2 roles playing it, and I think Corrie bank on people not remembering, and on these days, a lot more, if you're into a soap, you will be forced to remember because you'll see articles about it on social media. Back in the day...
Yeah, this didn't happen.
You would really never notice about it because there was nobody to tell you. And nobody remembers the face of random paramedic 3, do they? But...
What about bloke 1 and bloke 2?
If it's, again, going back to what the original question was, an immediate recast, you can't help but notice that. Which is why I think British soaps don't do it. I found one example of a character called Claire Devine in Hollyoaks. So she was recast in 2006 and she was mid-20s at that point. So that's older than it's ever happened in Coronation Street to a main character. And then there was another example.
Well, Gemma Bissett's quite a, prominent...
Yeah, exactly.
Claire Devine,
Yeah, and then there was a character I found in EastEnders called Lydia Simmons. She was recast... but she was an old woman. Oh, maybe Lydia Simmons was the actress name. I can't remember. She was recast, but she'd only had like two episodes as one character, as this character. But then she had to leave for health reasons. I mean, that's not a million miles away from Blanche, is it?
Yeah.
Who was played by Patricia Cutts in her first couple of appearances, and then sadly passed away. And then Maggie Jones was hired, and I think there was a few weeks gap in between the two.
That was a tragic...
Yeah, that was not somebody choosing to leave, which is what the question was about, clearly. But I wonder, again, at the time, how many people noticed it? How many people turned to their husband on the sofa and said, "Oh, does Blanche look different?" "Oh, I don't know, never mind," and then just forgot about it. But these days you wouldn't, would you? You
No, I mean we're talking about this from a viewer's perspective, okay? But I'm going to be a bit cynical here and talk about it from a production perspective.
Okay.
And I think that I think there has always been a bit of a contract of like, you know, we give you, you know, you take, we take, you give of actors and the production, where you kind of have, your job is protected and you have certain expectations in return for kind of giving up your career as long as you're in Coronation Street. Like, you're not going to do anything else. You're in Corrie now. It's going to provide you with a living.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to be fine. You're going to be well regarded. You're going to get taken care of.
Well, they're letting, you know, some more of them do
some people
curricular activities now. Aren't
clearly
they?
didn't have as good of a time as that. And you know, you can talk about what behind the scenes dramas all you want, but there's always been this expectation of, as long as I do what's expected of me, and maybe I'm a bit cheeky sometimes and I don't come to work because I'm hungover, as long as nobody finds out, I'm gonna be, you know, Bianca Barlow forever, right? And that was an unspoken contract.
Yeah. Where
they needed you and you needed them.
Yeah.
At the moment, I feel as though there's a bit more of a cynical outlook from the production side, where they are not really respecting their talent as much as they used to. Stupid things like not having a Christmas party. I know people make fun of it and say it's irrelevant, you know, it's like cosseted, you know, stars expecting, but most people's work has a Christmas do, don't they?
Yeah.
And like, I've never had a Christmas do. You don't either. If you work for the government, you don't get paid. You don't get to, you know, nobody pays for you to go to the Christmas do. But if you work in most companies, they'll pay for you. They'll get pizza one day. They'll have a wellness day where somebody comes and, I don't know, makes you a smoothie or some kind of crap like that. Coronation Street has done away with that. They've reduced people's earnings by 6%.
No, by a sixth.
By a sixth. That's even more. They're not.
Excellent maths.
People aren't appearing on screen as much as they used to, and this kind of like, is this going to become like a kind of anvil over your head of like, if we're not happy with you, we'll just replace you. We don't really, like, it's always been, we can't possibly, this person's too valuable, we've got to, but now I don't think they value people as much as they used to.
But it's also the fact that the cast is so huge these days that they don't necessarily need to replace them. So when Claire Sweeney said, well, I want to be Miss Hannigan, can I
go and do that?
Because she said that she tried to make it work, and they couldn't make it work, and I'm sure Corrie would have liked to have kept her because she was kind of a big name for the programme. She was not a hugely popular character, but she was a big name for the programme, so they probably would have liked to have kept her.
She's also an exciting character to write for.
Yeah.
I think, and watch.
Yeah.
Whether or not you liked her is irrelevant.
I mean, could you imagine a world where Cassie was recast?
I just think
it feels like she was on the verge. Like, it feels like there was a whole lot that they could have done with her. Even at the beginning of the year, they were having her proposing to Steve, and I think that, you know, if we scroll back a year and a half, a year maybe, I wonder what before Annie came along. I wonder what Corrie were thinking behind the scenes about what's our long-term plans for Cassie going to be, because they must have had something. So would it ever have crossed anyone's minds, or was it immediately shot down to say, let's replace Claire Sweeney with somebody else? I really wonder.
See, I'm being overly cynical, and I don't necessarily think this is how they're thinking in, you know, ITV.com Inc. whatever, evil conglomerate, cigar smoking businessmen who all have all the money tied up. But I wouldn't want to live in a world where Coronation Street's Bianca Barlow, who's been on the show for 25 years, highly beloved of everybody, then decides she's going to have a baby, and then ITV cigar smoking businessman says, well, fine, we'll just replace you. But sounds like the world that could be possible if they carry on with this very cynical, money grabbing, disregard of...
You do get some actresses that go off on their maternity leave saying, "Oh, I'll come back afterwards," and then they don't, as well, don't they?
Yeah, but you don't know why.
You don't know why.
Like, a lot of women's priorities shift incredibly.
Yeah, like, oh, actually, I think I quite like being a mum.
They don't expect, and other women, sadly, are not in a position to say, "Oh, no, I actually quite like this."
No, so I wonder whether, like, a replacement, whether Corrie in those circumstances had said, "Oh, I didn't realise that Brooke Vincent was going to come back. Maybe we would have replaced her," rather than just letting her swan off to Bali indefinitely.
I mean, I know they're freelancers, kind of, or like contractors, or whatever you want to call them. But I don't think that I don't think that you would get away with now going, "Oh, you're going to have a baby." Well,
yeah,
you're fired. I don't think you'd get away with it. I just don't think you would.
Okay,
at the moment.
What do you think if there was like a long running story, and for whatever reason an actor decides, "I don't fancy sticking to the end of this," what would you want Corrie to do? Because, like, for example, the Jeff and Yasmin story, that was a year and a half, 2 years. What if Ian Bartholomew or Shelley King had decided, whenever their contract came up during that period, "Nah, I want to leave it now"?
This is the
would
thing.
they have would it have been better to? Would they want us to cut it short, or would they have replaced one of them?
This is the thing about the goodwill, right? The goodwill aspect going both ways, because a lot of the time you hear on the grapevine of people going out of their way to delay their exit to facilitate a story. And I think, I'm not going to name names, but I think it's quite glaring and obvious when somebody goes, "No, you run out of time, I'm off." You can tell when that happens. Yeah. But some other people, for example, like Richard Hawley, he stuck around
for a year
longer than he wanted to help them finish the story of Jenny and Johnny.
Yeah, he was supposed to leave in 2020,
he wanted to go.
Wasn't he? He wanted to go then, but because of the COVID restrictions, they couldn't kill him off the way they wanted to, so he stuck around.
So when you're going around going, "I'm going to reduce your earnings by 6 because you're only doing, and then you've got people on the hook who are not getting paid what they used to get paid, not even working as much as they used to get work for, being told you can't, do this or that. And then you're saying to them, "Oh, we could just replace you." I think you're going to get yourself in a real sticky situation where you're not going to attract people who would normally want to work for Coronation Street because of his reputation. And you're also going to annoy people that have been working there for years. Mm. And some of these people are not, they're pretty well off. They don't actually need a third Lamborghini or whatever. You know what I mean? You got I know that everyone thinks that they're all cosseted and whatever, and you can argue whatever you like about how much they earn and what they actually do for it. I don't really care about that. I'm just saying, if you suddenly get a bunch of people and you suddenly change their working conditions to make them worse, and then you act as though they still owe you a favour for working there, you're in trouble. So if you start then recasting people because they say, I can't do it, I want a year off, or I've got mental health issues, or I need to not work so many days in a week because I'm ill, or like I have like a medical issue that means whatever. You're going to end up with a smaller pool of talent.
Yeah. The thing is, though, sometimes stories and other characters do suffer as a result of actors choosing to leave. For example, if we look at Toya, who's a favourite of ours, I don't think there's any denying that the character would be in a much better place had Charlie DeMello not chosen to leave, right?
I think that they are very used to working around emergency, like there have been emergency situations where people have suddenly, like when original Todd, that debacle happened, they had to work around that, and that took up a lot of time, but they did it.
Yeah, they did do it, but that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, would it be better if they'd, in that case, recast Imran? Now, Charlie DeMello was fantastic, but if they'd got somebody with just the same charm and charisma and all-round loveliness as he had, would that have been much better? Would that have been better for Toya? No. Would she be in a better situation? I think yes.
Okay, but it just wouldn't work on a British soap at the moment. Do we want to live in a world where it would? It would be so much easier for everybody. Like I said, my cynical hat is on my head now, and I'm going to say the production staff would find it much easier if they could just go, I'll just get someone else.
And like I was saying about with the US soaps, they have got their creative vision, one might say, for it, and this is what I want the characters to do, and they're only characters. Our viewers are buying into the show and the stories that these characters are doing, and you don't go to a play and say, oh, that's not the same person playing Hamlet as the person as the last time that I saw it. Who cares? And
Yeah.
I'm not arguing for recast. I think at the end of the day, I probably wouldn't like it, but it's odd to. It's interesting to think of a world where I were more accepting of it.
Like,
there's some characters that you just couldn't do it to. I was saying Imran, and it probably in my heart, and I do love Imran. He's pretty irreplaceable, but I do think that Toya suffered because of him leaving. But if
you couldn't get rid of William Roach.
Yeah, exactly. If he decides, actually, I'm going to call it a day now, they're not going to bring in a William Roach. Looking at some recent departures.
They're not going to bring in a new Ken Barlow.
No, sorry. Looking at some recent departures, actual real life departures, they couldn't have. If Helen Worth said, I'm leaving now, that's it. You couldn't recast Gail.
I'd rather
you
not...
couldn't recast Eileen, who left recently.
Right.
You couldn't recast Jenny. I think if you've been in the show long enough and you're a big enough name, I think it's still absolutely impossible. I think they probably could have, whether I'd have liked it or not is another matter.
You're going to name names now, aren't you? Why? Go on then.
Well, no, I'm saying...
I don't stand behind any of this.
I wouldn't have liked it, but I think Corrie might have said, we could recast Adam Hussein. He's only been in the role for, 3, 4, 5 years. Viewers won't mind. I would have minded. But I think Corrie might have thought they could have got away with it. Possibly the same with Paddy Beaver playing Max as well.
But I think what you said previously about the fact the cast is so big and the fact that people can be off screen for a long time makes it easier these days than it ever would have been.
To recast?
Yeah.
Because, yeah.
No, you don't remember this person, do you? They haven't even been in it.
Like. Yeah, the characters that have been there for a decent amount of time, I think we'd still have problems with accepting, but I think there would be more acceptance would they do it for relative newcomers. And I'm talking about a character that's been in it 2 or 3 years. Depends how much they were used, to be honest. I mean, Charlotte Jordan wasn't in the show for that long, but I struggle to imagine a world where I would be accepting, or where Corrie would even be willing to try recasting her as Daisy when she left as huge a name, as big a name as Daisy was at the programme.
They'd be much more willing, they'd be much more likely to just go, let's just get a Daisy clone in. Let's just get another new actress, similar role, similar personality. To be honest, I think a lot of people probably thinking that Idris feels a bit like an Imran replacement, where it's like, here I am, Asian businessman, who's got a link to speed dial.
Yeah.
I mean, if Charlie DeMello hadn't been killed off, who knows if this would have been Imran coming back and doing exactly what Idris has done.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, actually. Had they decided... There's
like certain... you can't deny there are archetypes in soaps.
When Charlie told Ian McLeod that he was leaving, and this is... he's told us this in person and in interviews as well, Ian's first response was, well, obviously we're going to have to kill him off then. But if they didn't...
I don't know why he said that.
I don't know why. I don't know.
I think that was a big mistake.
They could have brought him back at this point, and he could have been filling in Idris's shoes, and Imran could have slotted into Leanne's bed very, very easily. Yeah. And Toya would have been like, maybe I shouldn't have taken up Winnick the other year, actually.
And it would have been no shade to, Idris, but it would have been more interesting because Imran's got that history with both the sisters.
Yeah, that's true.
And there's nothing stopping, because he wasn't a whiter than white character as morals go, but he certainly wasn't as bad as Idris is. But that's a kind of
can you imagine Imran roughing people up?
But it's kind of like what they did with Todd, where he came back from London and a changed man.
Yeah, that's true. So anyway, I think kind of...
What's the question?
Why don't they recast? Why don't they have recasts?
I think we just wouldn't like
leave.
it, and I think that it would break this kind of contract, this unspoken contract between the talent and the production, where it's kind of like a mutually assured destruction kind of thing, right? Where you both need each other equally. Like, you need a job and they need you to be in the show. So neither of you can screw each other over. And if you do, you know, you end up losing your job.
Yeah.
You know? Like, you could walk away as a really popular character and leave them high and dry.
Mm.
I think I would feel even worse about Coronation. You know, I'm getting more and more cynical. It's not necessarily Coronation Street. It's the whole ITV thing and the money thing and the cost cutting and the corner cutting and all the nasty little backhanded things they're doing. This would be like, I think this would be the straw that broke the camel's back for a lot of people.
Yeah, and I think if they did go down the route of recasting as well, when characters choose to leave, it would... I wouldn't want to be in the shoes of the new actors, to be honest. Like, because it's no... You'd have to strike gold if it wasn't going to be someone who was going to be compared unfavourably.
What they're doing at the moment with all these new characters, you know, is there anyone who's been introduced in the last... Again, this is really mean, but is there anyone who's been introduced in the last 5 or 10 years who you go, gosh, if you got rid of them, you couldn't carry on? They've done it on purpose. They've deliberately made it so that it's such an ensemble show that you wouldn't notice. Like, and unless you're in a big family, you can just introduce a new person who fits that archetype. Or you do what they do, which again is cynical, is go, oh look, who guessed it? It is Bianca Barlow. She's been Adam's half sister this whole time, and nobody ever even knew.
Yeah.
You know, oh no, Tracy's gone, but Bianca Barlow's here, and she's the same person, really.
I wonder where this happens more in American soaps, what the cast size is like there.
Yeah.
And is it a case of, well, if people want to leave with the speed that they do in American soaps, seemingly, are you left up the creek because, well, we've only got 15 people on our cast, so we kind of need this character, actually?
Yeah.
I really don't know.
There's too many people on a soap, really, and I think that on this soap, there's nobody who is, except arguably William Roach, and maybe, you know, you could say Barbara Knox, there's nobody who is Coronation Street. Who, if they left, they'd say, oh, God, we need this character so badly.
But I don't think that they would say that about... I think there'd be documentaries and there'd be tributes and all that if William or Barbara did decide to leave. But yeah, Coronation Street would 100% keep on going, just the same as it's...
No, but I'm saying those two characters, you couldn't replace them.
You couldn't replace them, no.
But
you wouldn't need to.
No, yeah, all right. I didn't know what
you were getting at.
I'm saying there's nobody who is Coronation Street who is like, we can't possibly recast or get, you know?
Yeah.
Like, we can't carry on, we've got to recast this person.
I see. No.
Like,
There's nobody like that.
We need Ben Driscoll. We need Sarah Louise Platt. We need David Platt. We need Adam Barlow.
The only time that you could think that is if there was a long-running story,
yes,
and it's like, we were really, really banking on you still being here, actually. And I think if, you know, something terrible happened to an actor and they got really sick or whatever partway through a story, they would change the story.
They must have
rather than
contingency
recast
plans.
even.
And I do think that maybe...
There's probably examples of when they have, to be honest.
It's a weakness of Coronation Street that really is a strength that's turned to a weakness. That they are a long-running soap and therefore they can follow people from cradle to grave. But because they only have year contracts and people are human, they can't go, here's our 30-year plan for Ruby. They just don't know.
No, but...
And if they could recast and go, who cares who plays Ruby as long as she's in the show, they would have a 30-year plan.
Yeah, so I wonder... I do wonder, actually, whether in American soaps... What's the long-term planning look like there compared to British soaps?
Would it be better for us as viewers to have, like, you know, new producer comes in and here you go, here's the Bible of stories for the next 30 years for every single person who's on the soap now?
Yeah, and if the actor wants to be here, fine. And if not, we'll get someone else to play you. Because what we want is to be able to watch the best programme possible, and the best programme possible does come from... the creative minds of its storyliners, storytellers, and all that, and it's also... not at the whim of whether somebody decides they want to leave or not.
But you say that, but you think about the number. Like, for example, we mentioned Conor McIntyre earlier, who plays Pat Phelan when we talk about villains. that role of Pat Phelan was fleshed out because of how well Connor played him, and the reaction of the viewers to his character. He was never intended to be a big bad. He was only supposed to come in as like a dodgy builder who ended up, propositioning Anna, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
So you can't deny the creative input of the performers.
That's true as
well. I think you're doing them a bit of injustice.
Sorry.
Saying that, but you think about people like Catherine Kelly or whoever else you want to throw in.
Oh yeah, Saran Jones. Sometimes you get actors join the show, and it's like, oh my gosh,
so
where have you been all my life?
Like Saran Jones, you got Catherine Kelly, and you've got who was in what's her name?
Millie Gibson?
No, the one who played Raquel.
Oh, Sarah Lancashire.
Right, so those three characters weren't even in it that long because the actors are so great.
No, they weren't.
Would you have been able to keep Becky, Raquel, and whatever,
and
Karen? Would they have worked with somebody else?
No.
I do think.
But they probably could have done, and American viewers could say, well, yeah, of course it can. But I've also seen, I was reading forums and stuff at the weekend, and people were saying, oh, do you remember when so-and-so was recast? Do you remember the time when so-and-so played them? Oh, do you remember the first actor? They're always that... In my heart, I still always remember that first actor who plays them. And others are like, no, it's fine, I'll move on.
I think that an actor has a massive input into how their character is played, and I think, imagine if they brought the Driscolls back and they were like, oh, this is Eva, do you remember Eva? She looks a bit different now. Like, what would be the point?
Yeah, she's had some plastic surgery.
I think the thing about Coronation Street is that the world that they've created, the fictional world, is so enormous that you don't need to recast anybody, and it would be a disservice. Like, imagine if you forced Saran Jones to play Eva's part. It wouldn't work.
No.
Yeah, I think the actors deserve to have the consideration to continue playing the characters they've helped create. You can't tell me that David Platt would be the same if he wasn't played by Jack P. Shepherd. And I'm not saying they're all exactly the same. Because recently we had James get recast, and you can say...
After we go through a whole discussion about recasting characters without remembering James. He's probably the most prominent
recent example. But I think that Coronation Street takes a deliberate approach of not replacing them with somebody who is the same person. They deliberately make them a different personality, and the new actor gets a bit more room to create the character as a different person.
That's actually a good one to bring up, because that was quite a short gap, wasn't it, between Nathan Phillips leaving the role and Jason Calendar taking it on.
Because he had the sort of first on-screen kiss with his boyfriend after COVID, didn't he, James, the character?
Yeah. So it really wasn't that long at all. And
he liked his boyfriend then, but then he went to America and it all went to pot, didn't it?
It's funny because I still... Yeah, to me, he feels like a completely different character, so much so that I'm thinking, why did they bring him back as James? Nobody was asking for James to come back. Is this storyline enhanced any more by the fact that this person is James? I'm sure that they could have done it differently without it being him.
They could have had a cousin called, I don't know. I always say Frank.
Bill Bailey.
Bill Bailey.
That name's not taken, is it?
But he could have been a cousin, couldn't he?
Yeah.
Is there anything about him that makes him James?
Nothing. Not a single thing.
He doesn't play football. He is still gay. That's fine. That's the only thing he shares.
Yeah.
Is that he's gay and that he's into sport. But you could have a gay cousin that's into sport.
I think, he's very different. Like the big Corrie recast, adult recast, is the trio of Nick, Tracy, Todd. They're the ones that get brought up, and all of those were very iconic characters beforehand and have been iconic characters since. James was not an iconic character beforehand, and he's not an iconic character 1 year and a bit after he returned.
But those three characters were from legacy families. And I think it is respectful to treat the Baileys as though, they're the first black family on the street. Let's not treat them like...
I know.
Let's treat them with respect and the same as a legacy, because they haven't had the time. They haven't had the time to build up their legacy because they didn't have a black family before the Baileys.
The thing with Tracy, Nick and Todd, when they brought them back, recast, it was for a reason and a big story, and they wanted to make a splash. They didn't with James.
What do you
He's
mean?
done nothing in the past year and a bit. He's
got his own
he's woke up in bed with
scheme.
Carl. He's flirted around Todd a little bit. He's done nothing. He's added really very, very little to the show. And I'm sorry, it's true.
No, it's not. It's not.
In my opinion. And it's peculiar because all the other main recasts, it's like, yeah, I can see why they did that. And maybe that helped me to accept their new actors quicker than I've accepted James Callender in the role, because I'm still thinking, oh, he's the new James. I'm not thinking he's James.
Is he called James Callender?
No, Jason Callender, sorry. I'm thinking he's the new James. I'm not thinking he's James. He's the new guy that they've got. He's like the imposter James. And this long after he's been in the show, a year and a half or whatever it's been, I don't think I should still be thinking that. So yeah, if you're going to recast, make sure you've got a good reason for it.
Read.
IMO.
So Martin, I think that the producers should not recast. I think the thing is, a lot of the time, recasts are just a completely different. They might as well be a different person. So why, when you've got a cast of like 80 people, do you really need to replace, Bianca Barlow?
Yeah. Wouldn't it be funny if there's a character called Bianca Barlow that turns up on the screen now? You've willed her into existence.
Yeah, you could. I'm manifesting.
Anyway, that is the end. That we have answered that question. We've dilly-dallied and we've waffled, and I've done my research, and hopefully I've given you a few facts about other soaps that are interesting to you listeners. It was interesting to me anyway, a lot of what I found out about recasts and murderers. So that is it for this week's Conversation Street. We will be back at the weekend. I'm not sure when we're going to be recording the next one, to be quite frank. We need to figure this one out, because we've said before we're going to be seeing Paddy Beaver this Friday, aren't we, in his new play, which is prime recording time for the podcast, but we will see what we can do about getting it on Friday or Saturday. Look out for any announcements for that.
Behind you.
Yeah, so
there's a Coronation Street villain.
We need to go,
and it's
because
a lady.
Gemma needs to return some clothes to Next. So we're off to Next now. Maybe we'll stop off at Starbucks because it's next door. Goodbye, everybody. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.